adult life, has raised 2 children here, and have been actively involved in many community and leadership positions. Mary is a licensed realtor, has served for 17 years, 13 as a full member of the McHenry County Board of Review of Assessments. She has been a deputy assessor for Nenda Township and was elected as the assessor for McHenry Township. And in that election in 2014, Mary ran against an 18-year incumbent, won, and was reelected in 2017 and again in 2021. So Mary brings very, very good credentials in the county, and I think brings credentials that would serve her well as the clerk of McHenry County. She intends to run against the current incumbent, which has been a position that has left something to be desired as we have moved through some of the COVID elections. So Mary, welcome to our Indivisible Northwest Illinois group, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, John. I appreciate that. You really did a good job of telling them my credentials, and I'm going to touch on those a little bit later. But thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to your group and just explain why I am running for McHenry County Clerk and why I believe I am the best person. In fact, I know I'm the best candidate. So the things that I want to talk to you about today are the actual role of the clerk and recorder's office, because it is 2 offices, and I want to be clear what that involves, because there's a lot in that position. I do want to go over a little bit more of my background and experience and how that pertains to the county clerk's job. And I want to talk about some of the issues that we have seen in the current administration and how I would change that. So first, I want to go back a little bit on my what the clerk is, what the clerk's role is. So it's the clerk and the recorder. The county clerk is the chief election authority, responsible for all of the elections, all the ballots, getting them ready, preparing the boxes, and making sure that the elections run smoothly. They also prepare and maintain things like marriage licenses, death certificates, birth certificates, and keep those on record. And if you're a notary or something like that, you would get your form from the county clerk as well. So that's the clerk. There's a lot that goes on there besides the elections. As far as the recorder, that is, the recorder is in charge of maintaining all records and documents for real estate transactions. So your mortgage, your deed, your title, your transfer declaration. All of that is very important, especially if you're a buyer or seller in McHenry County. So I just wanted to be clear on what those roles entail, because I don't think a lot of people think about it very often, but there really is a lot of responsibility in those 2 positions, because remember, it's 2 positions in 1. So what do I have that you don't know about my personality that would make me want to run for the clerk? Well, I'm somebody who really believes that if there's something that I see is incorrect or not going quite right, that I'm going to jump in and I'm going to try to fix something. It's just part of my personality. I've done it many times in different areas, and I'm just not one to sit on the sidelines. I want to jump in and look for solutions to something and make improvements. So I think that's really just part of my DNA, and that it would be difficult for me to not try to take care of changing the clerk's office and all of the issues that we have there. So that is my personality, but my background and my experience, as John alluded to and told you so well, I'm a realtor. I'm still a realtor, and I am involved with the buying and selling of properties all over the county. I will have to say that I don't do it as much right now, but those documents come to, anytime there's a property sold, it comes to the assessor's office. So I see all of those documents as well. Working as a realtor, assessment, it led me to work on assessments and my interest in assessments, and that's connected to property taxes, right? So all of that's connected. I applied for the McHenry County Board of Review, became a member, again, as John said, for 13 years. And why is that important? Because it showed that I could be a neutral party, look at the evidence, and make decisions that really affected people's lives. So that's the experience I take from that. A deputy assessor, I wanted to get involved with the actual operations of the assessment office and see that side of the process. And then in running for the office, which was motivated, again, this goes back to my personality, that in my own township, I was seeing things that I wasn't happy with. I didn't like the way there wasn't really any customer service in that office. And people were not getting the answers they need. They were not getting the help they needed. And that is what made me decide to run. So again, as John said, I did run and have been the assessor now in my third term. And I'm really proud of what I have done with that office and changed it around, made sure that it's professional and people are treated in a polite and courteous way, and they actually get the information they need to help them. And I believe that that is why I've been elected for the third term, because people have seen that I can make those changes and that that's important to me. So what does that show you in order, and voters? It shows you that clearly I have the experience in the daily operations of a government office. My opponent does not have that. My opponent in the primary does not have that. And actually, I don't even think the current clerk had it before he ran for office. So really being involved in the daily operations is important. It's budgeting, it's managing a staff, and not just managing the staff, but developing a staff that is working together for a common goal to make sure we do it right and that we provide the best service possible. And I'm proud to say we did that. So I think that is what people get when they come to the office, and those are skills I will bring to the county clerk's office and make sure that we are providing customer service, because I believe as an elected official, I am a public servant and that is my role, and my staff needs to exude that as well. So now let me talk about what some of the issues, and you're probably aware of the issues, but some of the issues that are a problem with the clerk's office right now. The first one would be what I would consider voter suppression. I don't believe that the current clerk is trying to engage people to vote or encourage them to vote. We do have vote by mail now, so what does that mean? That means that people should be able to fill out their ballot at home and drop it off in a safe and secure location. And this clerk only wants to have one box located in Woodstock. I believe we need to expand that and make sure that there are drop boxes located throughout the entire county so that people don't have to drive from Spring Grove to Woodstock or the far corners of the county to drop off their ballot. I think we have to look at the extended hours for early voting to make sure that people have access to do that if they are not going to be able to make it on election day. I also believe that polling places shouldn't be changed all the time. They should be convenient and close to the precinct. So the whole idea of a precinct is you're voting in your neighborhood. You're close, you're voting where your neighbors are voting. And if you have to go 6 miles away, that's not really your neighborhood anymore. So I believe that the work has to be done to make sure that that is more consistent and convenient for all voters. So that's voter suppression. We want to make sure, I want to make sure that every voter has access, every eligible voter has access to voting. That's our goal. I think that's what we should be working for, not trying to suppress that or throw roadblocks in the way. So another thing would be the actual management of the elections. So the chief election authority, right? They have to prepare the ballots. They have to make sure the wording is correct. We know that that's not what's happening. We've had many instances where the ballots have been prepared incorrectly, where the wording for referendums have been incorrect, where where candidates' names don't appear on the ballot. That's a problem, and that will not happen when I am the clerk. We will make sure we proofread that properly, thoroughly, and actually, I think it's important to bring stakeholders into that, the taxing bodies, a representative from the parties, local parties. Let's make sure that we get it right the first time before we put it up. So I think that's important. I think that we need to train and support our election judges in a better way. I've talked to a lot of election judges who ended up having situations happen that they weren't prepared for. They have to call into the clerk's office and they can't get an answer right away because the people answering the phone are not really up on those rules. So I would make sure that our election judges are trained thoroughly and that they're confident in their position, and that if they do have something that comes up and they have to call into the office, that they're connected with someone who can actually help them and solve that problem. We have to make sure that we can keep that election day going smoothly. And that would be a change. I don't see that happening now. So that's another change. And again, having the staff that's trained, knowledgeable, and prepared is key to me. And that goes to customer service as well. I'm not aware of any issues with security in McHenry County as far as voter fraud or any hacking of computers or anything like that. There's nothing to indicate that that happens. All that we have, every election since the current clerk has been in, what we see is a careless person who doesn't take the time to pay attention to detail and make sure that things are running correctly. You need to do that. And I don't think that that's happening. I will pay attention to the detail. I will make sure things are right. And I think that that's really important to do. And it will also restore trust in our elections if we don't have issues the day after the election where the paper's covering the story and the Tribune's reporting on it. So we don't want to have that. We want to have good, clean elections and accurate results. So all of that actually goes back to customer service for me and making sure that just like I have done in the township assessor's position, I have turned things around, implemented procedures that make sense, that get the work done, that people can count on. My staff is trained and updated. Laws change, procedures change. You have to be trained constantly. You can't just say one and done, especially when they're laws that the state is making, right? So we have to constantly make sure that everyone is ready to do their job and make sure that they're not only providing the information, but doing it in a polite and professional way. That's really important to me. And again, that goes back to public service. It's important to have competent, professional, and respected office staff. And that's what I've done in the assessor's office, and I will do in the clerk's office. And that's really based on all of the experience that John talked about that I've been working on for a long time and will take to the clerk's office. So basically, in conclusion, I'm going to tell you that I know that I am the best person for this position. And I know that my experience is better than my opponent, my primary opponent, and probably better than what the current clerk had, his experience from a previous life. But I will use my experience, just like I have in the past, what people expect to see from me, and they know that they can get from me. is something that voters deserve and want, and to make sure that we have a professionally run clerk's office, and making sure that we take care of elections. And like I said, I don't think people should be having any doubts the day after the election, whether they won or somebody else won. And we've had to have that happen a couple of times. So we don't want that to happen. At the end of the day, I will do everything I have to do. I will pay attention to detail, train people correctly, and provide a staff that is trained, and restore the confidence in our system to the public. And that's why I appreciate talking to you, and I hope that you've heard some good things, some positive things about me. I obviously have an opponent in the primary, and I have to get past the primary in order to take on the current clerk in November. So I humbly ask for your support in that. And with that, I would open it up and say, what questions do you have for me?
Well, first of all, Mary, thank you so much for your very clear and thorough information sharing. You know, I really appreciate your the persuasive, you know, I will do this, or, you know, if I have an opportunity, I might do that. It could have been your response, but it was not. And I actually, it was captivating for me to hear I will. So I really appreciate that. You know, I haven't really had any big issues with the county clerks here. The only thing is, well, I guess I shouldn't say I haven't had any issues, but I just find that the information online is very busy and hard to follow. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that would be one of your strategies to get that cleared up, so that voters like me can actually follow that information easily and share it with other people. Would that be one of the things that you would be able to do when you're elected?
Absolutely. I've had experience with that too. And when you go to the website, it shouldn't take 20 minutes to find the direction where you're supposed to go. There is a lot of information on the site. It's information that people need, but that should be easy to direct, you know, to follow the links to it, and to be clear and concise. And yes, I actually think that that is a little confusing now, and would be working to clear that up.
Thank you.
Hi, Bob.
I happen to be a resident in McHenry Township, where Mary works now, and I wanted to not necessarily question, but reinforce some of the things she said here. I think one of the bigger problems with our current clerk is income. What would I call it? Incompetence, I guess. I've seen over and over again that he misses something or doesn't get something done by the deadline, and then he blames the deadline for not having it done, or blames the deadline for not being able to be transparent about what he's deciding, like precinct definitions and right. All that stuff. I mean, he's just not organized enough. And the other side of that coin is I am a precinct committeeman in the township, and I've had Republican people in my district who have said the only Democrat I care about is Mary, township office, and that's not an unusual thing. I mean, people really appreciate the work you've done, Mary, and so I want to reinforce that as well. So thank you for running. We really need a clerk in this county, and I'm going to be working for you.
Well, thank you very, very much. It's I appreciate that, and I think that the reason people say that is because they can trust that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, and that they know that I'm going to be honest with them. And if something, you know, it's getting a little bit in the weeds here, but people know that when they come to me with a question, if I'm going to answer it. If I don't have the answer, I'm going to find it. And in the assessment world, where I am putting a value on a property, there's not an exact number. So I don't think I'm always right, but I will work to make it right. And that's what I think people appreciate and have seen. And again, that is what I will take to the clerk's office. And I do agree with you, Bob. Even as the assessor, no matter what my staff does, the buck stops with me. If I don't train them properly or they don't know what they're doing, that's my fault. The deadlines, the laws that are passed, where the state passes the laws, the maps were changed a long time ago. That he had till the end of January, which was right before petition time, to do this huge precinct change. That's not something you want to do lightly. And he also threw it to another department to do. I would be really hands-on. I think that there's a lot more work that needs to be done in making sure precincts are correctly, as accurately as possible, as makes as much sense as possible to keep them together. So you got to be hands-on and you got to care. I care. I do not think our current clerk cares about it.
Okay, thank you, Mary. John, you have a question?
Yes, Mary, all the staff at the clerk's office, I presume, other than you, are non-elected. Is that true?
Correct.
So then, if you get elected, how do you go about changing behavior of that staff to be in line with your vision, given it's more than just one or two people? And what are some of the steps you're going to take to see that that does occur? And maybe you could replicate what you did at the township, but that's a much smaller entity. And so how would you make that happen?
Well, I think the best way to do that is to actually communicate with my staff. Because it is a large office, there has to be supervisors for divisions. So the supervisors have to know what my vision is, what the team is supposed to be doing, and they have to be clear about everything that has to be done under their department. Then the staff under their department has to be trained properly, and we need to test them. We need to make sure that they're doing what's right and making sure that everyone understands that. I think what I have found is that, we all, again, in the assessment office, we have very different roles that people have to do. But when I have a lot of meetings with my staff, they know how passionate I am about making things right. I get them to buy into that. They need to know that this is customer service, that their job is important, and that I appreciate what they do. I think staff that doesn't feel appreciated doesn't work very hard for you. So I understand the importance of a staff that is trained, that is, again, that has the same beliefs and understands where the leader is coming from. It comes from the top down, right? So if you don't care, your staff might not care. Well, I care. And my staff in the assessment office, they know that I care, and they know that I am the name on the door. And if there's an issue, it reflects on me. And they appreciate how I treat them. They appreciate the conversations that we have. How do we do things better? How do we improve? And working through things with them as a team effort. It really is you've got to work together as a team. And again, the goal being getting it right and making sure that the public gets the service they need and the information they need. I'm also a hands-on assessor and would be with the clerk's office as well. There's been many times in my office where, my staff is doing fine, but maybe the customer, the client, the taxpayer is not happy. And I'm there to step in and make sure that I'm the one. If they're going to be upset with somebody, they're going to be upset with me, and make sure that I can take care of that situation. So it is a much larger staff, and actually it gets compounded a little bit because the recorder's office is at a different office in the building. But I have to have good, clear communication with my staff, regular communication, and making sure we're all on the same page with the same goal. I hope that answered your question, John.
It did, and I would just say that, based on Bob's comment, you've probably been successful where you're at. And now it would be, okay, how do you take that to a broader place? So what you said makes sense. And now it would just be in the application. Can you get it done?
I don't know that it's going to be easy. I don't, what I did when I first got into the assessment office was I had to see what the staff there, what their knowledge was, what they were doing every day. I didn't know what skills they had and how I could use them. So that's going to take some time to develop that at the clerk's office, and make sure that if they're supposed to be doing something, that they're actually capable of doing it. And just, it really is seeing what's there first. How do I fix it to make it more efficient and make them confident in what they're doing? So if your staff's not confident in the answers they're giving or the work they're doing, that's, the public knows that. So I want to make sure that they feel good about their job and comfortable with what they're doing. So it's just going to take more work in a larger 2 offices. So.
Well, thank you for that, Mary. Kate or Jane, do you have questions? Okay. I think that's probably going to be all the time we have. We have 4 minutes. If you want to give us closure or any other comments, Mary?
Sure. Thank you. I think that all of the dates for the election, the petitions, the primary, everything was moved back to a very strange time. People aren't thinking about the elections in June, right? So I really encourage people to vote by mail if you are comfortable doing that, or to vote early. But certainly make sure that you are aware of the June 28th date. Make sure you tell your friends and family. It's really important. I can't defeat the current clerk unless I get through the primaries. So we need people to vote. We need people to care. And this is important. There's a lot of, not just my race, but a lot of positions that are up, and the local politics are the ones that really affect you the most on a day-to-day basis. So I know that you guys are involved, and just going to take spreading the word. If you want to volunteer, that would be great too. We always have a need for canvassers, places for signs, phone calls, whatever it is, but it's a group effort. And thank you for all of your work that you've done. And again, for letting me take the opportunity to talk to you today. I appreciate it.